Today we begin with a personal story of mine. I was on vacation one year out in the wilderness and staying in a cabin. We had hiked all day. It was a full day. And I was really looking forward to curling up into bed and reading a book by Betty Jean Eady called Embraced by the Light. And so I'm in bed and I'm reading, and it's a fascinating story about how she has a conversation with an angel from the other side who explains how each and every one of us have been a part of creation. I thought that was so fascinating. And as I'm digging in deeper and enjoying the reading, this black spider comes up over the top of the book and crawls down the page. It was all I could do not to slam the book shut. It startled me. But I restrained myself and I opened the window and I allowed her to crawl outside. Ugh. And I went back to reading about creation thinking, would I have created the spider? That night, I dreamt of a giant spider woman hanging over my bed and slowly coming down on top of me. I was both terrified and in awe at the same time. As she got closer, she kissed me, and I woke up. Well, I knew that being visited by a spider probably induced that dream, but I became very curious about what that could mean. And so I began researching spiders and their story, and I came across the mythology of the spider woman. It's shared across several tribes, the Navajo, the Hopi, the Ojibwe, and she is a part of their creation story. The synchronicity of it. I asked myself in this process, well, what does it mean for me? And in finding out more about the spider woman, she often symbolizes new beginnings and the wisdom of weaving a world with intention and not with attachment. What an interesting message for me. So the mythology states that the spider woman is a co-creator with the sun. And the sun, Tawa, works with the spider woman, Onishnabek. And together, they decide to create a world. And so they do. And as they do this, they think, let's create this world with great intention. So they do. In the dark, sacred night, the spider woman weaves these wonderful, beautiful creations. And as the sun rises in the east, Tawa, the sun, shines light on them, and life is breathed into them. It's such a story of beautiful creation with equal male and female energies. I loved that. And I noticed the intention was there. But later in the story, the creations, the animals, the humans, they start doing things of their own. And Spider Woman doesn't become attached to the outcome. She doesn't try to control what they do. She allows them to be. Amazing detachment. And so, being raised Catholic, I actually was very curious as the Bible had a story of a spider. There are not many places where spiders are talked about in the Bible, but I did find it in Proverbs chapter 30, verse 28. And here's what it says. The spider skillfully grasps with its hands, and it is in kings' palaces. That's it. Feels like an awkward sentence. So I started looking at it through metaphysical interpretation, and I thought how beautiful it is that the spider skillfully grasps with its hands. It creates with what it has. And it leans into that co-creation by aligning itself with the power of God. And doing so, it uses what we have inside and it brings it forth to assist in this co-creation. Then the second part, where it is in king's palaces. I couldn't help but think that when we do this, when we align ourselves and use the gifts we were given to co-create with intention, we align ourselves all the more strongly with the kingdom of God. So of course, we would find ourselves in the king's palace. I liked thinking about that, thinking about using what is within in co-creation and leaning into it. So I looked for it in unity. And there within Eric Butterworth's book, The Power of Creation, Discover the Power Within, there is this chapter 8 where he's talking about the gospel of prosperity. And often when I am co-creating prosperity in my life, I get attached to the outcome. But the Spider Woman's medicine teaches me to take wisdom and give that over to a higher power. And this is what Eric Butterworth says about it. A good illustration of this, though a very simple one, is that of a spider. The spider simply unreels her web as she needs it. And she does phenomenal things in this process. Yet, the spider would probably be in a cumbersome and totally unwieldy form of life if she had to carry a tangled bundle and bales of webbing to use. She'd never be able to get off the ground. The great mystery is how she is able to unreel, to unfurl what is within her, for that's all she needs, as she needs it. This is the kind of character and the consciousness that we think of in terms of our own realization of life. There are so many stories of the Spider Woman. She's sometimes called Grandmother Spider. They talk about her wisdom as a medicine. And in some of those stories, she is always weaving a beautiful web, whether it be for creation or for protection, but she is always weaving what is within and bringing it out. And she does so with intention. And she does so without attachment. And this is what actually frees her to be more successful in weaving those webs, in being in that moment of alignment, for true co-creation. Her wisdom enhanced my experience with co-creation. I thought about that dream and I asked myself, I wonder if anyone else has ever been kissed by a spider woman. Have you been kissed by a spider woman? As I was thinking about this, I love the acronym K.I.S.S, K-I-S-S, and something funny occurred to me. What do I do when doubt comes in and washes the spider out? I thought, keep it spiritual, silly. And the reason is that when I am attached to something, it's because I am holding on too tightly. I'm taking myself far too serious, and I'm believing that I'm only the human Natalie, and I tend to forget my connectedness to the God within. And so keeping it spiritual reminds me to be in the practice to say, silly Natalie, there is so much more. And the silliness helps to wash out the doubt. It helps me to really be more present to the intention and be present to release and let go my attachments. I'm finding this is a powerful way to manifest. The Spider Woman has so many things to teach us. Her wisdom seems to rise up from the page when I was reading her stories. I loved that the overarching message for me was that, like the third principle of unity, I can co-create with God from what has already been given me. I can bring it out from within and not get burdened or entangled with attachment. I can intend with deeper alignment to the God within. I can find myself in the King's palace. I like what I've learned from practicing the kiss of the Spider Woman. I love that it's a spiritual practice I can lean into to remember that co means with God. That when I am with God and aligned with God and using what is within me to co-create together, doubt has no room to breed. So finally, I want to share with you. Actually, I want to ask you, when a spider visits you, take pause and remember the gifts of the Spider Woman. Remember her story. Remember that you are being visited and encouraged to take intention into your new beginning and to leave behind any attachments so that you're free to be fully present. I want you to retell this story often, and I want you to lean into its wisdom and allow its medicine to work within you. I want you to lean into the kiss of the Spider Woman. I have to ask you again, have you ever been kissed by a Spider Woman? Today, you have.